Welcome to the East County Sports Report. I'm Ramon Scott, and I'm joined by Dave Dickens of EastCountySports.com. Dave, we made it through another regular season, and the playoffs are upon us. This Friday night, several of our East County teams will be in action. In fact, 8 of our teams will be playing on the opening night of the playoffs, and a few more will join in next week. A couple of them have byes in their division, and of course, the Open Division playoffs begin next week with 4 teams competing for the top title in all the section. And last Friday night, you were there to see one of those teams, Dave. The Helix Highlanders got their win and earned the number 1 seed in the Open Division playoffs with their win 35-23 in come from behind fashion against the Steel Canyon Cougars. The Cougars, they were aiming also to make the Open Division playoffs. They led 21-7 at halftime, but sophomore Christian Washington scored 4 touchdowns, including 3 in the second half. He had 218 yards, and the 9-1 Highlanders are back in the elite bracket after losing last year's Division I championship game by 1 point to the team it will face this Friday night, the St. Augustine Saints. Dave, we'll talk about that, but you were there last Friday night. Steel Canyon and Helix lived up to expectations.
It did all the way from the parking lot almost to TGI Fridays over there off of it was quite the parking situation, and unfortunately I was involved in some of the parking in the rear of the stadium. But what I hear is that's going to be taken care of shortly, and we had an all-star cast from CIF on hand for the action on Friday, last Friday as well, with our own section, uh, Jerry Schneip, and then we also had another one from, would you say, from, was it Florida? Anyhow, we had also an executive. We had anybody
Oh,
and
also the
everybody
CIF
wanted.
people were there, right? Okay, I understand.
And anybody and everybody was there on hand to watch his performance. And I tell you what, the Cougars came out and they came out on fire. I mean, they came. You look at the highlights, you see. I mean, how they pumped it up pretty well too, coming out of the smoke and everybody all riled up and ready to go. And they Steel Canny got the ball and scored quickly and often in the first half. But I don't know what happened, but we did get kind of the insight from Dale Trailer last night, giving us the insight on. Coach said that they needed to just buckle up and play Helix football, and they had a crazy second half. But what about they tried to do it again, second week in a row. What they did at Grossmont, that crazy play of in Tennessee Titan fashion, uh, tossing it back and forth and lateral here and there and uh, to and fro. And we asked Delshawn if he actually prepared that, and he said yes, he did. He did talk to the guys and say, hey, there's a little time on the clock. Let's see what we can do. Get in better position. Um, and of course, our thoughts, Ramon especially. Let's not try to fumble the ball away either, though, and cause a turnover. Which is very possible in that situation. Luckily, though, for the Helix Highlanders, they, like you said, Washington was the man once again uh, for the second half. Just really roasting the. I don't know what happened to Steel Canyon after the half.
Yeah, strange turn of events, an interesting turn of events, and a somewhat tragic turn of events. Helix special teamer, receiver Andre Salcedo injured his arm. He broke his upper arm, a humerus bone, right on the first play, the kickoff of the second half, and took everybody's breath away a little bit, and everyone had to step back, and even the fans had to catch their breath a little bit. You talk about the parking situation; they had to like move people out of the way just to get the paramedics and the ambulance in there. And Andre, understand doing okay and get better, Andre. And Hope you're feeling better with that injury. But after that point, Dave, really, Helix had a renewed intensity. Now, it might have come out, after the half to come out with that burst of energy that they have. But, I think the interesting thing about it is that Washington now has 14 touchdowns this season, Dave, including 13 in the last 5 games since that injury to senior superstar running back Elelion Noah, who had 11 touchdowns in 6 games before being sidelined with a season-ending foot injury. Now, you mentioned Traylor. He had a scrambling play. You mentioned what they tried on the kickoff. He also showed that same ability on a scrambling 53-yard touchdown pass to Jahari Hill after Steel Canyon got a safety and made the game 28-23. Traylor scrambled away from that mean Steel Canyon defense. They got paws on him. They even grabbed him and almost pulled him down. But Traylor escaped, rolled out, and threw to Hill down the left sideline, who had kind of slipped away from any coverage because Traylor had extended the play. And that was the big blow right there, that touchdown. But great job also by Steel Canyon. They get a bye into the Division I playoffs. Cougars sophomore quarterback Elia Karizamasi passed for 221 yards, Dave, and a great touchdown pass to Antoine Walker, who made a one-handed catch, Odell-like, in the end zone, in traffic, right in the front of the end zone, kind of in double coverage, and Karizamasi also rushed for a pair of scores. But Helix now, Dave, has won 48 of its last 50 Grossmont Leagues games. And they're in the semifinal. We talk about it. They're show it there on the screen, but they are playing Saints. That's next Friday. So we'll kind of preview it then. We're kind of recapping this game because you were out there, Dave. But I will mention the Scotties did beat the Saints 44-38 earlier this season at Mesa College. You might remember Helix actually kind of had a bigger lead than that earlier in the game, and Saints kind of came back. And the winner of that game will take on the winner of Carlsbad versus Cathedral Catholic. Helix has also defeated Cathedral Catholic this year, obviously, in a very high-profile matchup, 45-27 earlier this season, Dave.
Yeah, they sure did. And who haven't they beat, really, this season? But it was pretty interesting to see Steel Canyon. They had that undefeated mark that they never had in their young school history, and to go that long without being beaten, and then finally, unfortunately, having that happen was it's not an end of their season though. I mean, we still got the first round bye, and we might even be in better shape where we're at right now. We didn't lose anybody in a really hard fought battle, really, on the field, first and second half. So I mean, I have all the faith in the world. And like you said, we'll get more into detail on the preview next week when they do play the game. But I think they'll handle Saints just fine, as they did before. I think they're on the rise. Helix is on the rise at the moment.
Yeah, they can't go much higher. I mean, they're ranked number 1 in the polls. They're ranked number 1 in those power rankings. They earned the number 1 seed. Cathedral Catholic lost on the final night of the season to Lincoln. So they still remained in there as well. And Carlsbad was the other team that made it. And, of course, Steel Canyon, Dave, it almost worked out. I mean, Cathedral lost, and I don't think they would have bounced out of the top 4, but because of maybe their schedule strength getting knocked down just a little bit, if Steel Canyon would have beaten Helix, it was kind of like the scenario. It would have been better, if Carlsbad would have lost, it probably would have been no doubt that Steel Canyon victory would have gotten them into the open division, but they might have gotten in if they beat Helix, just because Steel Canyon's strength of schedule might have been affected. I don't know. I might be guessing there, but nonetheless, Steel Canyon does get the number 1 seed in Division I. So congratulations to them. This is a big goal.
Yeah.
Win this number 1. They got to win it, but they won Division II before, and now they can win Division I. And so that's a big, big honor, a big, big reward and award to get this top seed. Of course, they will have the week off, and they will take on the winner of a matchup between Eastlake and Oceanside in a pretty interesting 8-9 matchup. Now, Steel Canyon did handle Eastlake earlier in the season. Eastlake's gone through some changes, including a midseason coaching change, and have actually steadily improved a little bit as we've approached the playoffs. So it's still going to be Eastlake or Oceanside, who's actually also had a very, very good season. So Steel Canyon will be at home. Expect they'll get the job done, but they'll await the winner of that game and play next week, not this week. So anyway, Dave, we do have some other Division I games that we can talk about with some of our top teams in the East County. And how about 5th-seeded Grossmont? They're going to host 12th-seeded San Marcos at Mashin Stadium on Friday. Senior Jamie Odom passed for 292 yards and 4 touchdowns in a season-ending road win at El Capitan last Friday. Dave, the Vaqueros rallied from a 28-6 deficit to tie the game at 28 after 3 quarters after Wickhauser passed for a touchdown, rushed for a score, and returned a fumble for a scoop and score, but Odom rushed for the go-ahead touchdown in the 4th quarter, then passed to Caden Tedicon for another score. Senior Brody Schicker had 8 receptions for 123 yards and 2 touchdowns. Grossmont earns the home game against a pretty tough opponent, San Marcos.
Yeah, and last year, unfortunately, we were up on San Marcos last year, and a little bit different cast, but we were up and we lost that one on our field. So I'm sure that Grossmont's going to want to get back to work immediately and avenge that loss. Also want to mention one other stat, too, that senior Jamie Odom also had 13 carries for 112 yards on the ground. So he's been killing it all year.
400 yards, huh? Wow.
Yeah, 13 carries for 112 yards. That's just amazing. They're averaging about 35 points a game, so high-powered offense as we expected and we talked about early on in camp. And they really aren't showing any signs of slowing down whatsoever. We lost Magnum to graduation, but he did stay in the community college circuit. But like you said, we still got Schicker out there. We have. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't talked to Carlo about this, but I know that we were running Christopher Alba as a running back in the last game due to injury. Once again, to the starting running back Robert Tucker.
Yeah,
I do not have official word on that. If he's going to play against San Marcos, I think that will be a huge deal. But
he did a great job. We'd like to have Tucker in there.
And a great job on Grossmont throwing Christopher Alba in there. I mean, he kind of reminds you of a Delshawn Trailer for Grossmont. Very versatile, top linebacker, and also throw him in at running back. He could be the do-it-all guy for the Hillers when in need. But
I was thinking more at running back. I was thinking, Chris. I didn't get to see. I saw some of the highlights. I was thinking more like Larry Zonka, but maybe no one knows who that is out of our crowd.
Well, and there's a big difference, I think, in this one hosting this game as opposed to last year. I think we have all the advantage, and I think Grossmont will be an easy favorite. And I say even without Tucker, I think they should win this one by 2 touchdowns.
Dave, did you go to that game last year? That San Marcos Grossmont game?
I did.
Week 2. Try to draw back what happened in that game because Grossmont didn't score, in the second half. And now maybe San Marcos, they had a pretty good quarterback on that team, Miles Hastings, and Jamie had a great game. He had over 300 yards in that game and 3 touchdown passes. And Robert Tucker, you mentioned him, he actually ran for 64 yards in the game, and Jamie had 48 yards rushing. And Schicker and Tucker also caught touchdown passes, but the Hillers were outscored 26-0 in the second half. Do you recall what went on?
Yeah, they were. It was 26 unanswered points.
Hmm.
definitely was. It was like you were looking at two different teams. Um, I actually remember I was at another game in the county, and I had gotten there, and the Hillers were up, and it was right before half, and then they just ran out of gas. Um, San Marcos just, I mean, they did a come behind like Helix did in at the Steel Canyon game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't recall the exact, but I do remember that the San Marcos defense did shut the Hillers out. So I'm looking for Grossmont for a big avenging, hard fought game on the ground. Uh, with the balance of Jamie Odom, but I think the health of Robert Tucker will help immensely on our ground attack
Yeah.
uh, against San Marcos. But I do think they're a much better team than they were even at that early part of last season uh, with a healthy Robert Tucker last year. But it was earlier in the season.
Yeah, I know Grossmont after they ended up falling behind in that game, and a lot of penalties in the game last year, if I'm not mistaken, and also Grossmont was going down. They had a chance to retake the lead, I think, down 25-21, and they fumbled, I believe, in San Marcos territory, and kind of said, and then San Marcos ended up answering after that. So it was a little closer, but like you said, they were outscored in the second half big time, 26-0. So, anyways, Grossmont, I think they'll get. Of course, I've got Grossmont with the win here. Keep the pedal to the metal and keep it going. Let's get a quick start and don't let up in the second half and beat San Marcos, because I think that's what we've seen when Grossmont has gotten upset a couple of times at home. Now those were regular season losses to North County teams, but North County teams have kind of rallied against Grossmont. But if anything, in that first round game, I mean, look at what Grossmont did on the road last year with that huge victory at Madison. So we know that Grossmont will be playoff tested come Friday night for that game. Okay, Dave. One other.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
And this will be their, it's kind of interesting too because this will be their eighth home game this season.
Yeah,
A lot of wins, a lot of wins playing at home.
they'll feel comfortable. Check for the status of Tucker. Maybe we can get an update before game time. I don't know if it's an injury. Obviously, kept him out of the last game, if I'm not mistaken. Didn't see his name in the box score. So
Right.
all right, Granite Hills, Dave. They were seeded 11th. They were an automatic qualifier to the postseason as a Division One team. They're going to travel to face a sixth-seeded La Costa Canyon team, a very good team. La Costa Canyon. They've had some injuries this year, some players missing, but the Eagles made it look easy last week on senior night, Dave. 43-6 over Valhalla. Junior quarterback Justice McComb passed for 4 touchdowns, including 2 to junior Jacob Setterberg, and another long touchdown pass to Matt Keeley, a 73-yarder, and Granite Hills freshman Jalen Hall continues to impress. He had a 69-yard punt return for a touchdown. And want to mention Eagles senior James Johnson, 6 catches in the game, finished the regular season with 73 receptions. The Eagles, though, have their work cut out for them at La Costa Canyon. This might be a very good game.
Yeah, my Eagles are flying high. Definitely after the Valhalla, um, you know, they went over there and just they beat him up pretty good.
Pretty much
But
scored on
we
every
got to,
possession, right?
yeah, but we got to look at it also. But we lost 4 games in league, and I think that really that hurt our ranking and you know put us behind the 8 ball. And I think we're really going to have to scramble. And I think we got a tough task, even with the injuries, against La Costa Canyon on the road. I do, however, I was talking with Coach Cobbs actually on campus last week, or no, it was Monday. I'm sorry, and I think talent-wise, I told them I think that overall, Granite Hills is a better team than they were last year overall. Even though the record doesn't indicate, I think they've had a little tougher task as far as opponents this season. And I think they do have the firepower, though, on the offense. Uh, you definitely got several flavors as far as wide receivers and and a running game from not only the running backs themselves. We got from Mississippi, we got uh, come on,
The running Kevon Martin.
Kevon Martin back. Yes, that we had acquired from Helix 2 years prior. And I think the freshman too has really been he's really been a piece of work this year, and I think is going to continue to help build the Eagles for future opponents. And as far as the Costa Canyon, um, like you said, they do have some injuries, but they're playing at home. They have won several games though, and I'm going to have to unfortunately pick against my Eagles and go with the home team by 7.
Okay, well, I'll go with the Eagles. I think they're an underdog here, and I'm pulling for an upset, and I'll just pick them just to pick them. I mean, I don't know how to make it sound flippant, but I like.
Well,
I look. I respect La Costa Canyon a lot. You mentioned Martin; he had 57 yards rushing, and I think that showed the Eagles' focus to, not let up against Valhalla. You talked to Jeremiah Satberry last week, Dave, and he said that they were treating Valhalla, unfortunately for the Norsemen, who could have used maybe if the Eagles were kind of, you know, taking them lightly because they had lost the game. Maybe they knew they could win the game without putting forth a full effort, even because they are ranked so much higher than them. They're the stronger team than Valhalla. Well, you know what? The Eagles made no deference to that at all. They went out and dominated that game. So I think it shows kind of their renewed focus for this postseason game. Those league games are tough. I mean, they were underdogs in all of them. And they did not pull off those wins this year, for example, against Grossmont or against Steel Canyon that helped them, earn that league title next year. So, this is where it's going to be for them at this point now. And this is where these guys are going to leave it all out on the field. That's not saying La Costa Canyon is not going to as well. I mean, if anything, I don't know. Maybe La Costa Canyon has kind of had, I don't want to say a disappointing season. They're 5-5, but I think a little bit more was expected of them. Like I said, they did have some injuries along the way. So, come on, Eagles.
well, and then lastly, the Eagles were in the game versus Steel Canyon. They were in the game versus Grossmont. Unfortunately, in 2 of those games, they shot themselves in the foot. Turnovers killed them. They were even in the lead in under 2 minutes in 2 of those league games. Those were huge versus Grossmont and Steel. This is our time to shine on the road, and I don't see them getting back home, but we are gonna. They could pull off an upset, but I'm still gonna go with the home team 7.
Oh, hey, make no mistake, Dave. You look at those computer projections that you love so much, and La Costa Canyon is like a 2-touchdown favorite. So, all right. I don't know if you want to take a look, Dave, anywhere at Division One. I just want to move. I'll move ahead a little bit. But if Grossmont wins, they would face a rematch against Madison at Madison, just like last year. So, and the winner of the Granite Hills La Costa Canyon game will travel to face Mission Hills, which will be a tough game.
Ooh, especially after they beat up on San Marcos last week, 41-7. So that's another tough task for the winner. It doesn't get any easier for either La Costa Canyon or Granite Hills.
Dave, in the Division II playoffs, the Monte Vista Monarchs, champions of the Grossmont Valley League for the second straight year with their 42-0 win at West Hills. Last Friday, they earned the number 8 seed and will host ninth seeded Poway. That game is sure to be quickly contested. It sounds like a running game to me. The Monarchs are riding a 5-game winning streak heading into the postseason. Senior Isaiah Gardner rushed for 138 yards and 3 touchdowns last week. He also threw a touchdown to senior Julian Robledo. So, Dave, the Monte Vista Monarchs and Poway Titans, this is going to be a great game. Even though Monte Vista's at home, I have a feeling this one's going to come down to the wire.
No, most definitely, and I think Coach Yamamoto is going to stick with what's worked for him most of his tenure over at Spring Valley at Monte Vista, and that's been the ground game. So everybody was contesting that. Okay, well, we have to beat the Monarchs to get a championship in the Hills League, and we're going to take the big back. He graduates. What are they going to do? What are the Monte Vista Monarchs going to do? We lose Blake Schmidt to Montana State. And what are we going to do on defense? Simple. We're going to pound the ball again. We're going to play tough defense. We're going to leave Logan behind. And he's going to play just as good as his brother. And we are also going to have Sebastian Valdez have a big year as well in the sack department. And we're going to have Isaiah Gardner running everywhere, and our offensive line that returned all the starters from the year before is even better. So and then like you said, the winning streak that we're on also, and playing at home, I think that it is going to come down to the wire, and I think this is going to be it's going to be a big scoring game actually. And I'm going to say that Monte Vista is going to come out on top, and I would say it wouldn't be surprising if there was 50 points scored in this one here. But I'm going to say Monte Vista by 7.
I'll take the under 50 points, but yeah, that does concern me. I'm not sure that both teams are going to run certainly, and Monte Vista, the home field is the equalizer here, Dave, because Monte Vista is the champions. Poway is a considerable favorite in the game. If you look at those computer projections, just turned out, I think what happens is Monte Vista is the league champion. They get the home game. They get the 8th seed. I'd like to be told by this. If anybody out there can tweet at me or text me or something. I don't think CIF actually released the actual numbers of those rankings heading into that seeding, but I think this is the way they work. Monte Vista gets the home game, the league champion. Poway, they were 3-2 in their league. They're a very good team and a very good league, and they are expected to win by those projections. Dave, Poway is the 2-touchdown favorite here, and I'm going to pick Poway to win this game. But I think the strategy is obvious for Monte Vista. They're not going to do anything different. We talked to Michael Richter yesterday when he was talking about the Monte Vista Santana game. He said, well, they ran the same play every game. Just wasn't much we did about it. We couldn't stop it. We didn't make the adjustment. It's basically what he said. So Poway knows what they're getting, and Poway's a pretty seasoned team.
They're gonna. I mean, it's no secret. Okay, they're gonna stack the box, and they're gonna come at Monte Vista, and they're gonna come at them really tough. Let's not forget too that one of our Grossmont League teams, although they were in the Hills and are a higher division, but Granite Hills did beat Poway early in the season. But I don't know. There's just something about these Monarchs, and there's nothing. It's not a secret. There's no secret recipe. We do a simple I formation, and we play defense, and we're going to run the ball. We're going to pound the ball. We might even get 40 carries, Mr. Gardner.
Well, fortunately,
who knows?
Yeah, and they've been able.
And then Silva's a pretty athletic quarterback too, so he might run for 100 yards himself. I can see that happening very easily as well. As you said, Michael Richter touched on Silva as well, and he was very good all season long. Little dinks and dunks to put in the mix. I think though that there's something really special about this Monte Vista team as a whole.
Dave, here's another interesting one. I don't know. We've got all these home games. You look at the games involving East County teams. Only Granite Hills plays on the road. Now, West Hills plays on the road at Valhalla, but those are two of our teams. But all the East County teams are playing at home. And here's another situation where Christian has the higher seed against Otay Ranch, but it looks like the ratings might actually have Otay Ranch a little higher, on the computer. Even if you throw in some home field advantage here for Christian, maybe Otay is a slight favorite here against the Patriots. Dave, last Friday, the Patriots lost at La Jolla in heartbreaking fashion, 20-19 on a touchdown by the Vikings in the final seconds. A Christian win would have clinched a share of the league title with the Vikings. With that loss, Christian, they were headed probably for a top 4 seed and a bye, and now they've got to regroup a little bit. Do you think this will bring them down a little bit? Are they going to be ready for this one?
I think they are, and I think honestly it was, in my opinion, and I think Mr. Beazer might even agree, put us in a better spot for a first playoff game as far as the brackets are concerned. And I actually did talk to Dave about this one, and it's pretty simple. Stop the run. Let's stop with the penalties, and we can get a win. Uh, we have seen Otay Ranch play Steel Canyon a few times in the past as far as the Grossmont League contenders. Steel Canyon has but this is I don't want to say a superior opponent over Christian. Uh, I think I'm gonna go with the home team. I'm gonna go with Christian, uh, and I'm gonna go with them by 3. I think it's gonna come down to who can play the better defense, and I can see also Christian running the ball as they have. But we do have that opens up the passing lanes for Gabe Krug. I mean, he's been fantastic with his legs all year long. Uh, we can have him to score. We have several weapons. I mean, we've gone to Todd Beazer. I think that's actually their secret weapon in the air. He's sure-handed, built like a tight end, and he gets open. He has been in the system, and he's a big guy, a fast guy, and then like I say, he and Kruger are on the same page all the time. And what can I say? I think being at home too is also the advantage, but we're gonna have to play some good defense because I think Otay Ranch is also going to be very good on the run.
Yeah, they're kind of a run-heavy team, but their best player is probably Paco Puente, their quarterback. But they're a team that doesn't have a big, superstar in my mind on offense. They balance it out between so many different players. Their running backs, they get it to different receivers. They have several players who've scored touchdowns this year, so it's really tough to decide, kind of who to key on there. But you mentioned Krug and his rushing, over 700 yards, and Nate Stein. He also scored a touchdown last week along with Krug. He has 700 yards rushing, and don't forget Christian Salacup. He scored a touchdown last week as well, and we know him for really his pass receiving and his kick returns, but he can also run the ball out of his slot position. So Christian does have the weapons. I think they can win this game, and I'm not going against them. I like them to, I don't know, I guess I can call it an upset. Maybe, if anything, that, if I was the Christian coaching staff, I would just point to those ratings and say, hey, look, we're not, this may say 6th seed, but, these computers or whatever they are, they say that we are underdogs. So I don't think they'll have any trouble firing up after that game against La Jolla last week.
Definitely not. And boy, I watched that play several times, and going to a receiver that typically is not catching balls from at all and not on the field, but right place, right time, wrong time for the Christian Patriots, and uh, it's been several years since La Jolla won a Eastern title. So, um, with that being said, again, I can't. Uh, I still favor Christian by at least three
Yeah,
with the home. And let's look at their offensive line has been very good more times than not, and has created our running lanes for most of the season.
yeah, and congratulations to La Jolla. I mean, yeah, that league championship is like 24, 25 years in the making. They hadn't won since those Huddleston teams back in the mid '90s. So, congratulations to La Jolla earning that victory on their home field on Friday night. Elsewhere in Division Two, Dave. So the winner of Monte Vista and Poway will travel to face Tyler Buckner and Bishops, the Notre Dame-bound quarterback. They're now sneaking up into the top 10 in the county media poll, probably well deserved. They really do have a really exceptional team this year. And as far as Christian, if they were to win, they would get a date with the Vista Panthers up in the North County, which would be an interesting game. But you got to get by this one. You got to get by this one first. Okay, we're going to move to Division Three now, Dave, where a pair of East County clubs will meet for the second time this season when the eighth-seeded Norsemen host the ninth-seeded Wolfpack. Dave, you can talk about whether the computers kind of get it right or not, but look, West Hills, they went 6-4 in the Valley League, a better record than Valhalla, 4-6 in the Hills League. But we know Valhalla won that regular season game in week 2 in Santee, 24-14. Maybe that's what went into this. Valhalla gets the home game; they get the higher seed. In that week 2 matchup, Keegan Baker rushed for over 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. Senior Jake Mayhew had 100 yards rushing for the Wolfpack, but the Wolfpack was shut out in the second half of that game by the Norsemen, Dave.
Yeah, and speaking of shutouts, unfortunately, Coach Ash and his crew were shut out last week too, 42-0. So I get routed by the Monte Vista Monarchs that we were just speaking on behalf.
Yeah. I want to interject what you mentioned that game. I thought it was really interesting, Dave, that Coach Ash, in your post game interview, really singled out the play of Logan Baker, um, um, Logan Schmidt, in that game, his defensive play. He said that Coach Ash said that Logan Schmidt really stood out and was really firing that night and really dominated the play on the defensive end for the Monarchs. So I just thought it was an interesting quote by Coach Ash that he gave to you after the game.
No, for sure, and I think there's several coaches that have played the Monarchs that really see him as a feisty young man, and I mean, we know better than anybody. We get quotes from him every week. He's definitely quotable. Uh, and he talks about his own size and not being big enough to compete, and you know, talking with many coaches and his own coach and himself. You know what? The coaches are against what he's saying about himself. They say that he's very athletic young man and he should be able to get. We would hope so anyway. Get a good scholarship to a 4-year institution. Um, Not to mention very intelligent football player. Um, just overall, definitely one of those. He says he in several uh, occasions he's talked about he likes to have a little fun on the field too, not take the game too serious. Crack a couple of jokes while on the, even uh, against West Hills, he mentioned going over to their huddle and saying, "So what are we gonna do, guys? What are we gonna do here next?" You know, just to, I mean, you're up 42 nothing. Of course, you're probably gonna kind of take a lackadaisical approach towards the end, but definitely, yeah, you're correct on that. Coach Ash singling out. I think he's had some talented kids on his club, which he does again this year in Klingerman, uh, being Kip and Cole, and Jake Mayhew has been phenomenal on the ground and also on the defensive side of the ball. We tend to forget about that, but also he's one of the better defensive players in the county. And let's not forget too that we had two quarterbacks that were pretty much on the same playing level playing field all year long. Same amount of touchdowns, same amount of yards. We really never came down to selecting the quarterback, if you will. But I like West Hills actually on the road and in an upset of Valhalla. And I'm going to say that it's going to be a defensive battle, and I will say West Hills by a point.
Well, I'm going to take Valhalla, of course, in this game, Dave. I just want to mention Valhalla in that game against Granite Hills. I want to point out some highlights for them. It was Lath Adnan who returned a fumble, 45 yards for a touchdown. Miles Tomlinson rushed 6 times for 62 yards. Dave, in that game in week 2, it was West Hills that had a 14-7 halftime lead, but it was Lath Adnan who recovered a fumble on the second half kickoff, and it led to a 26-yard field goal by Anthony Hernandez, who was playing in his first varsity game at the time. But late in the third quarter, Baker had a 54-yard run for his second TD of the game, and Valhalla took the lead 17-14. After Valhalla's Bashar Noor recovered a fumble in the fourth quarter, the Norsemen drove 65 yards in 9 plays. In the second quarter, Valhalla marched 77 yards in 11 plays to tie the game in the first half. So they really did run kind of through West Hills on that day. So West Hills will have to shore it up and kind of key on Baker, I think, a little bit if they're going to get that road win. Go ahead, Dave. I'm going to take Valhalla.
Okay, and now I was just going to mention Valhalla has to really tighten up on defense. So they've had an average of like right around 33 points scored on that defense per game. So they definitely need to tighten up if they are. I'm sure that that's going to be the object of the game for Coach Ash's side is uh, definitely going to mix it up. But I don't think he likes to get too fancy. We don't want to turn the ball over, but that's how I'm going to claim that West Hills wins the game is finding some holes in the defense and the containment, as you mentioned, of not only Baker, but we also need a key on now. What's it now? Meredith is still good to go, right?
Yeah, I don't see why not. Has there been any?
No, I'm just making sure because we've seen him play phenomenally too. He was even Pigskin Player of the Week a couple weeks back. Yes, he was. But anyway, once again, I'm going to take the pack by a point over Valhalla.
Yeah, and Dave, in that interview with Coach Ash, he told you that emotions were running high. That was a championship game for West Hills last week. So, being senior night, he was still happy that they played the game all the way through. But he said this would be a real character check for the team this week. So, no other way to prove your character than going on the win and getting revenge on a team that defeated you earlier in the season on your home field. Valhalla is favored to win in the game by the computers. So, should the winner of this game, we know that one of them will win, one of our teams, right? So, the winner takes on, guess who, Dave? Scripps Ranch, the top defense in the county in points allowed.
Sounds like a tall order to me. So good luck to either the Norsemen or the Wolfpack. Uh, we'll see how it shakes out, but um, They're definitely going to have their hands full
Yeah.
when they go up against Scripps Ranch.
Well, a lot of good games this week for our teams, but only one of them features two Grossmont Conference teams. So we'll see. I shows you how my old brain is working. I tried to say Logan Schmidt, but Valhalla was on the screen, and I was thinking Logan, and I saw Baker, and I saw Logan Baker, who is Keegan Baker's brother, and I'm just getting old, Dave. I apologize for that. Anyways, Dave, the Division Four playoffs going to get underway. We know that the Santana Sultans, Dave, earned the top seed in Division Four following their 42-7 win over El Cajon Valley on senior night. Senior night for El Cajon, right? Last Friday night. Senior quarterback Nathan Temple passed for 4 touchdowns. The Sultans will host the winner of a first-round game between Escondido and Classical Academy this week. Dave, do you want to mention anything about the Sultans before we move on to talk about Mount Miguel, who's in the Division Four playoffs this week?
Yeah, I mean, I just definitely the defense that wasn't recognized. I was happy that we were able to get Michael Richter on our show last night to recognize that Santana is not only such a high-powered offense, but they have also been keyed in on their defensive play as well. And as Nate Hughes put it, the Richter scale. It was the quotable young man, the young receiver, or the I shouldn't say young, the senior receiver for the Sultans. Uh, but yeah, I mean, when's the last time speaking of the last time and old? When's the last time the Sultans were in CIF?
Never.
We're trying something new this year, and I think this might even be the best. Well, it is the best Santana team.
Look, that's why expectations are high, because if you look at those, like I said, the final rankings weren't necessarily released, the final CIF rankings, but those other Max Preps rankings were released. And that one, of course, takes into account margin of victory, but the Sultans are kind of head and shoulders above every team. So unfortunately, that's a lot of pressure for them, and maybe that was a lot of pressure in that game against Monte Vista. As it turns out, Monte Vista has a pretty good team still, pretty good program still, and the Monte Vista Monarchs haven't gone anywhere, and so that's why they ended up, in winning that big game a couple weeks ago. But still, the Sultans can look forward to this. They can put that league title situation behind them and focus right on this goal right now, and hopefully, Dave, that can meet our dream matchup somehow in the championship game when Santana faces Mount Miguel for the Division Four championship. But we got to start this week by beating a tough team, the Coronado Islanders. Dave, Matador senior Jaheim Allen Pompey, who leads the county in receiving yards, he set the San Diego section record for most yards and most receptions in a single season in the victory last Friday night over Del Norte. Allen Pompey caught a section record tying 17 passes in the contest, including 4 for touchdowns, as Mount Miguel pulled away from a 28-20 halftime lead thanks to the defense led by Pat Chima and company. Allen Pompey finished with 269 yards on the evening, which ranks in the top 10 in single game reception yards in the county record books all time. The 5'7", 130-pound star was in class today going over some football video, when Paul Rudy walked up on him and told him that he was going to be on the KUSI Silver Pigskin podium as one of the top 7 players in the county up for that show's top award. And Dave, just a great honor for Jaheim, a great season. He passed current Ohio State receiver Chris Olave to set the yardage mark last week. That's a huge, huge name to pass. Olave is turning out to be one of the best receivers in the country this year on one of the top teams in the country. He's just 4 touchdowns away from tying Olave for the single section touchdown reception mark. I don't know. He might get it this week. He might not. This is a playoff game against a decent Coronado team, but Jaheim and company. Don't forget JD. I know you want to talk about him, Dave. It's going to take everybody this week to beat Coronado. I've seen them. They're a good program. They have 6 wins. It's going to be a close game.
Well, when Coach Troy Starr took over the program, that was definitely a tall order. Definitely a huge change from being a part of the Helix program. But I mean, really, it's not only been as you mentioned the receiving end, but JD has been on fire since last year when he took over and showed us how strong his arm was.
Yeah. Yeah, Dave, I started to do the research a little bit on Laverdier's, records that are going to be coming up next year because he's only a junior. And get this, Dave, he's got 3,100 yards so far this season. That ranks him 15th in the section all time for single season passing yards. So, going to get some more this week and maybe more if the Matadors win. He's 13th all time in the section in career passing yards with 6,034, and he ranks 14th all time in the section with 57 career passing touchdowns, including 30 this season. So we're talking about Jaheim this year. We're going to talk about JD. We'll talk about him this year a lot too, but next year he's going to be setting records. But you know what? These guys can continue to set records and make big marks if we can get one or more wins in the playoffs. And believe it or not, Dave, they're 2 touchdown favorites against the Islanders this week. I think it's going to be closer than that, but I've got Mount Miguel.
No, I would definitely go with Mount Miguel. Also, we saw one of our other East County teams beat Coronado early on in the season with the when the El Cajon Valley Braves were on their 3-game winning streak. And we will get into that shortly, but El Cajon handled them after 75. I believe it was 75 or 78 to nothing the previous year, and then defeating them this year. I think, with that being said, that Mount Miguel should win by at least a pair of touchdowns, as you said. I think they're going to be lighting it up between JD and his number 1 receiver and the number 1 tandem in the county with Jaheim Allen Pompey.
Yeah, and you talk about what they've done, what Starr and his crew have done over there at Mount Miguel. They're back in the playoffs, Dave. The Matadors back
2 years.
in the playoffs. Yeah, so that's the big news. The Matadors in the game last week, they defense forced and recovered a pair of fumbles. One was returned for a touchdown. Junior Deshaun Fox forced a fumble. Chima returned it for a score. That gave the Matadors a 35-20 lead. We talk about all those records, but that was the best defense Mount Miguel has played all season in that second half against a pretty good Del Norte team. They came in with just 2 wins, but they played in the tough Palomar League. So Del Norte, did answer with a drive in the second half to kind of keep it close, but then Mount Miguel kind of pulled away late. JD had a rushing touchdown in that one. So big night for Allen Pompey and the Matadors. I got to interview Jaheim after the game, and he was just so affable, just such a lovable guy. Way he, I was interviewing him. He just turned to the team basically and said, "I want to thank you guys for helping me set this record." It was a great moment for him and for him to acknowledge his teammates. I told the team when I was basically standing in front of him, and I was kind of stunned by it. And I asked him to come over, and I said, "Wow, here they are." And I said, "You know what? You guys are going to remember Jaheim as kind of being this signature guy on this team. Remember all the records he set and all the success you guys had in the playoffs. But when Jaheim sits down in his rocking chair, when he's our age or older, he's going to think about those guys individually and all his teammates, and they had such a great time. And let's see how far of a run they have the offense to do it. Hey, you need offense. They say defense wins championships, but you need a lot of points to score and win games. So Mount Miguel is going to be the guy all the way through these playoffs. And Dave, as they move on, let's hope they get that win. The winner of the game takes on Sarah at Sarah, and that sounds like a Pretty tough game. Sounds like a winnable game to me, though.
I think most definitely, and like you said, I think they got the offense to do it, and they showed last year last game they showed up on defense, and they showed that they can play defense as well as their high-powered offense. So we got a kind of showing a little balance going into the playoffs, and I think that that's going to be one of the big keys too, is playing some defense and putting our opponents away early.
Yeah, those other receivers doing a good job too. Laverdier had 365 yards and just 5 touchdowns. Dave, that's all. But just a foot. They're so good. It's just a footnote, kind of in this story. I'm ready to move on to the next game, but just want to mention 5 touchdowns. Might be a good idea. We take it for granted that JD does this every week. I want to mention he threw a 4-yard touchdown pass to junior Kojo Miller, will be one of his top targets next year. Looks like, along with Anthony Mitchell, who also played a great game on defense. Sophomore Ruben Hernandez caught 3 passes for 60 yards for Mount Miguel. And Axel Aguilar did it again. He's looking good on his PATs. He made all 7 of them. So let's move on, Dave, and talk about Division 5. And Dave, hey, I don't know, Dave, we kind of started talking about this potential matchup a few weeks ago. Said, you know what, these two teams could meet in the playoffs. And, well, you know what?
Here we are.
They are going to meet in the playoffs. It's Mountain Empire taking on El Cajon Valley. This one's going to be at Darrell R. Priest Field on Madison Avenue. A home game for the playoffs for the Braves. They're going to host the 9th seed at 7 o'clock. Last week, Dave, El Cajon Valley senior Joe Malone tossed a 69-yard touchdown pass to Clarence Johnson in that loss to the Sultans. I know the Braves were talking about they really wanted to get a shot at the Sultans, but I'm not worried about it. The Sultans were the better team this year. Maybe the Braves didn't even know how good that this Sultan team was going to be. The big deal here is, Dave, and I want to give Mountain Empire a shout out. They had to cancel one of their last games. That hurt because of the fire danger. So they only played 9 games, and that could affect them here. And I hope they come in and give the Braves a great game. But I got a feeling, Dave, that the Braves, they might get a win like they haven't had in quite a long time on Friday night. I like them considerably in this game.
And they just endured an overpowering Santana team that came in there. And let's not forget that El Cajon Valley started off at 3-0, undefeated. And we thought we were on the road to success and possibly. I honestly thought that El Cajon was going to finish the season 6-4, the way that they were headed and the way that they won those 3 games convincingly. Maybe it didn't show on the scoreboard, but if you watched like I did the 3 games that the Braves did win, they were winning in every aspect on the field. Um, you mentioned Clarence Johnson. We also had Demarius Hyde, who's also been fantastic on the ground. And let's not forget about no relation, but Joe Malone, also not only playing quarterback, but also close to the top in tackles, also in the backfield. And he's not a very big guy either. But you were talking about tackling techniques last night with Delshawn and Michael, and textbook tackling. A guy like his size, Joe Malone's size, he's wrapping guys up, and he's tackling correctly, which is leading to the level of tackles that he's been successful with in the backfield. And then again, and like I said, he's I just think that the Braves didn't get the credit that they deserve, because they did fight pretty hard in all of these games. And let's give credit to also the coaching staff of Coach Nick Osborne, and also his assistant coach in Cliff. Um, they just both have done a tremendous job with the program, not only turning them around on the field but off the field. Uh, at home. I mean, they really just they're trying to change the culture over there at Elkhorn Valley. But I do want to give a fair shake to the Mountain Empire Redhawks. Are we the same team that we were last year? Not at all. We're a lot younger. We've kind of shifted around a little bit. We had to play. We didn't have Khalil in the behind center last. What was this? Yeah, this last week. Um, we had to make some changes there, and the Redhawks are just they're a little wet behind the ears. Um, but I think that this will be a good challenge. But like you said, I think it's going to be in favor of the Braves playing at home. They haven't had a win in a while, um, and then they have to the Redhawks having to travel. But I'm going to go against your pick, and I'm going to actually take the Redhawks by a field goal. And let's see who's. I'm not sure if they're going to start Khalil or what the status is. Maybe I can get some information here prior to game time
Was Khalil
on Friday.
injured in the last game? Or
I know that they. Well, I know that they had. They took the running back and they put him Jericho at the
Mhm.
quarterback position for. I think it was towards the end of the game.
Okay.
Um,
I don't know if we heard. I didn't hear anything from them this week. I do know that last week Brennan had 145 yards of, or no, I'm sorry, Brennan had 131 yards of total offense, and Khalil, no, okay, let me get this straight. Khalil Whitehead had 131 yards of total offense, and he rushed for a touchdown. Jericho Brennan had 83 yards on the ground. Marcus Smith caught a pair of passes for 51 yards, but they lost in that game to Vincent Memorial 42-13. They trailed 35-7 at halftime. Were you able to get any information from the Redhawks this week?
yeah, I think it was
I don't.
a no, it was a communication issue. I did send some. Uh, maybe it got lost in the shuffle, but yeah, I did because I did have a uh, some information texted over by Mr. Uh, Coach Nico. Yeah, he did send me over some information. I did forward it, but
Okay,
I don't know if
bad on that.
yeah, I don't know if
I will mention sophomore Larry Clark, 8 tackles on defense, a pretty good effort there, and Efren Penwillis had a sack in the game. So, looks like they, I don't know, Vincent Memorial, great team this year. So, I just feel like the Braves, might get a considerable victory in this game. They are favored to win the game, Dave, in the computer projections by maybe 10 or 11 points, maybe a little more if you throw some home field advantage in there. So the winner of this game will advance to play Vincent Memorial. So
well, I had a chance to see Vincent Memorial playing Elkhorn Valley, and I got to say that's an impressive ball club for a D5 club out there. They're definitely a quality opponent, especially their quarterback has been phenomenal all year for them. Uh, some of those passes he threw were just uh, Coach Nick Osborne. Even I remember him talking about it with me. He and I were talking about just the athleticism that he showed even that night against the Braves, and we came into agreement. You saw the highlights yourself. Very elusive, strong arm. Uh, they're going to be a tough opponent. I wouldn't be surprised if they win the championship.
yeah. All right, Dave. I just have one more game that I want to mention, and like I said, I haven't heard from this team a lot this year, but I've been following their scores. I've tried to see whatever I can. If I see any highlights, I've definitely checked them out. Last week, the Foothills Christian Knights advanced to the Section 8, the San Diego Section 8 man championship game. last week with a 61-14 win over visiting Ocean View Christian out at Junior Seau Field last Saturday. Foothills Christian will now face second-seeded San Diego Jewish Academy, undefeated San Diego Jewish Academy, in the final at Mission Bay High School on Saturday at 7 p.m. Now, the Knights defeated these Lions 41-14 to capture last year's 8-man section title. Last week, Foothills Christian in that win, Tony Moroz had 302 yards passing and 4 touchdowns. He also ran for a score. Jason Oliveira, he also rushed for 2 touchdowns in the game. 4 different receivers caught touchdowns for Foothills Christian, and also leading the way was junior Blake McIntyre. He's been their, I believe, top defender all year. He had 9 tackles. That didn't lead the team, but Andrew Laoki had 10 tackles to lead Foothills Christian. A lot of big names. I expect Foothills Christian to win. Dave, they had 9 sacks. Laoki had 3 of them in that win. Also, Tanner Corey had an interception. McIntyre, 2 fumble recoveries. Carson Norton forced 2 fumbles. A bundle of statistics here, but we haven't covered them too much. But if anybody wants to watch an 8-man football game, what it looks like, go out to Mission Bay High School, or you can watch it on the NFHS network. A subscription is required, but I expect Foothills Christian to win that game, and just want to pass along my condolences to the Foothills Christian family and our good friend for many years of EastCountySports.com, Mike McHugh, who passed away. Condolences to his family, that we love them very much. And Mike was always good for a great debate on his teams and how he would always argue in favor of them. It was always just a lovely argument, a lovely discussion to get into with Mike McHugh, and a really great proponent of youth sports in the East County and throughout the county, especially in softball and other sports as well, including the basketball program over there. So much love to the McHugh family. Okay, Dave, you have anything else on the football? Any statements, questions? This is it. We're heading to the playoffs.
No, just going to be an interesting week, and I think there should be at least a handful of our teams still standing, and then we still have a few that are going to be just waiting on results.
Yeah, plenty of games
Honestly,
for the fans this Friday night. I mean, look, I just want to let's just finish up here, but anywhere you go, okay, just listen to these venues: Valhalla, Grossmont, Monta Vista, Christian game at Valley Stadium, Mount Miguel's at home. The Braves are home. You got no excuse not to get out to a great high school football playoff game this weekend, fans.
absolutely, and like you said, from any division, anywhere in the county, you definitely shoot. You can just go down Madison and knock out a pair right there. Go watch a good Oklahoma Valley Mountain Empire, and when you're done with the half there, finish it off over at Valley Stadium watching Christian win that game. So, like Ramon said, plenty of games to go to in the county. So get out there, support your local teams.
Say hi to Dave. See him out there. Come over to the stands, Dave. Talk to us.
And we also want to we want to thank, you know what, we want to thank our intern that has stuck with us through thick and thin this season. Only 1 week missed. Mr. Thomas Ringer, Specialties County Sports this year, intern, quite the journalist. We're finding out, and photographer as well, covering a lot of mostly Mount Miguel. He covered 2 Monta Vista games. Took an El Cajon game in as well. So got his first taste of an East County Sports.com coverage. He has talked about interest of heading into the basketball season with us as well. Of course, we know after that we'll lose him for sure, because he will be a part of that big Mount Miguel baseball team headed out there by Frank Coit and crew, and definitely a lot of talent on that baseball team. But uh, we're pretty far away from that right at this point. So enjoy your playoff football, and then we want to thank our sponsors that are on the screen there. Uh, Marcharios, I am sorry, Matacarillos off of 2nd Street in El Cajon. Pick up a pizza, pick up some Italian dishes. You're local, everybody knows where it is. Um, some of the best pizza I've eaten. Uh, Stay away from the corporate gurus as far as pizza goes. Go over there and say hi to Pat and Pat Villani over there at Monica Rios. And if you want more Italian food, go ahead and see the Burners over there off of Mission Gorge Road.
Ganja!
Exactly. And go see the Burners. And they do a lot of catering as well, takeout orders, you name it. And even show up to, if you're going to take in a goals game or two, go see them down there as well. And Al Sports Shop, personal touch. Been there for years, been servicing. I can even remember them sponsoring one of my little league teams, Lakeside American. Lakeside American, my friend. And Al, and now that Al has retired, we still have family in there. Rob Treadwell has been a fantastic individual, especially with his donation to the, as far as the awards go, to our annual Bill Dickens All-Star Game over at Mount McGill. Uh, Thank you so much, Rob, for being so kind to the county and good-looking awards, I might add, as well. Special award he made for our own Grossmont's Athena Sotelo, who was MVP of the year. Um, Also want to mention who we age 12. Go out and see Hoppy. Take some hitting lessons. We're definitely you definitely want to head over there and check out his new technology, the Hit Track. It's definitely something you want to check out. Take kids over there, get them started early. Let's have them hitting them out of the park. We need more talent on the baseball teams when they get to the high school level. So go see Scott Hoppy Hopgood at age 12. Um, Alpine Manufacturing out there in Alpine, headed up by the Coit brothers, Johnny and Josh. Who else have we got here? And last but definitely not least is our go-to guys at Retro Sports, Matt Atkinson, also his group of merry men, always busy and hard at work. You're looking for a quality uniform, you're looking for quality equipment, and at a somewhat of a discounted price, head over to Retro Sports. They also have some used equipment for the younger guys and pretty good shape too. So there's always an option at Retro Sports right next to the Bull Weevil there off of Dallas and Fletcher Parkway. Uh, so that I believe about wraps it up.
Yeah.
And
I want to
for
shout out one more time. I got Valhalla, Dave, in the volleyball championship this weekend. They're going to take on Maranatha Christian in a CIF girls volleyball championship game. And I also want to mention one other result, Dave. River Valley High School. I don't know if we've ever talked. Maybe we've written a few things. I've maybe come up with something on them, but River Valley High School in Lakeside, they are going to compete this weekend for the CIF Division 5 volleyball championship against West Shores. So be on the lookout in East County Sports. River Valley High School in the years to come. They've been around for several years, actually, but they're competing for the title this week.
And let's not forget, and we might be putting something together, might have to do a double deal tomorrow. So look for it. We might have to invite our good friend um Abe Muhazy from the Kings. They are having their kicking off their season at home at El Cajon Valley High School, 6 p.m. November 9th, Friday, November 9th at 6 p.m. Your San Diego Kings are kicking it off. And we also know that one of our former Christian high coaches, Coach Fomber, is heading up the Kings, and they're on a winning streak right now. They've already started, won a couple of games, and just want to give a shout out. And if you're ever looking for an attorney, a good attorney, as far as any accident you have been in recently, unfortunately, we never want that to be the situation. But see Mr. King. He'll definitely take care of you. And you want to see a quality semi-pro basketball club, go see the Kings. Again, that's November 9th, this Friday
Saturday,
at 6 p.m.
November 9th.
Saturday, I'm sorry. I'm thinking about playoffs, darn it. Uh,
6
so,
o'clock,
yeah, go.
Valley High School, playing the Orange County Nova Stars, kind of a rival, local, regional rival.
And again, Davion Fomber, Coach Fomber, formerly of the Christian Patriots, is coaching over there. You could say hi to Davion also over while you're hanging out at El Cajon, and go out to the game. Don't wait for it to be. We want you to come see our highlights, but go out and support them. They're local. They're good.
They are good. They are good, Dave. I'll plug the commercial here. The team you mentioned, Attorney King Amanpour sponsors the team, trying to get him involved with East County sports and just more Kings coverage because of our relationship with the owner, who he co-owns the team with Attorney King Amanpour, Abraham Muhazy. He's also the general manager. He was the general manager of the year in the American Basketball Association last season. The Kings went all the way to Texas. I believe it was in Dallas. They competed in the championship series. So this is not some novelty. This is the team's, I believe, their third season. Abe thinks he's found a home where he wants to play at El Cajon Valley High School. And, the ABA, it's arguably the, second best. I call the G League kind of, that's part of the NBA. But when you're talking about the ABA, you have literally hundreds, over 100 of these teams, regional teams, competing throughout the country, and they try to whittle their way down to a national championship. So there are big stakes involved for these teams. And Abe Muhazy started his own team, got Attorney King Amanpour involved. He's got a beautiful team, uniforms, stands, dancers. It's a real a DJ out there. It's a real experience. It's professional sports right here in the East County. It's our professional sports in the East County, the San Diego Kings at El Cajon Valley High School, and the team, of course, no joke, led by veteran Manny Perez. He led them to those 2 victories in Arizona over the weekend. All right, Dave. I think Dave's frozen up on us, so let me wrap it up. Thank you for everyone tuning in and joining us. I'm Ramon Scott for Dave Dickens. This is the East County Sports Report.